Welcome back to Agent Tactics. It is another Thursday, a lot to go through today. One of the things that I always hear agents, especially in the Austin area, is like, how do I get more business right now? How do I convert more business right now? The market's changing. And my good friend and personal coach has helped change my business, all the little things that I was getting wrong. She's helping me out with. So I thought, you know what? Who better than to come broach this topic of what we should be doing right now than Kristi Jencks? Welcome, Kristi.
Awesome. I'm excited to be back here at Agent Tactics. I love this crew. I even see some familiar faces, so that's always fun.
Yeah, well, look, I love like you do a lot for the Tom Ferry ecosystem. You do a lot for your coaching clients. What are I want to go into all your top key things here, but like high value picture, what is it that agents are not doing right now that they should be doing?
What are they not doing that they should be doing? And that's so I know that we predominantly talk about marketing and video, and so I'm going to bring a different lens today for the crew. And it's really skill building. That's one of the things that I see right now. So I heard a statistic that just blew my mind. I first heard it a couple weeks ago, so it was in April, mid-April. I heard a statistic that in January of this year, we had the highest fallout rate for the season in history, right? So 15% of the contracts, right? So we worked so hard to get these buyers and sellers under contract. Nationwide, about 15% on average were falling out. But there are markets like Jacksonville, Florida, where they had a 40% fallout rate, right? Redfin reported areas like Los Angeles, 1 in 7 pending sales were getting canceled. And I started to think about that. I was like, oh my gosh, right? Like, we don't get paid, right? Our clients don't get satisfaction if the deals don't close. And I started to mull over this thought of if the market were to change, if something were to happen in my marketplace, what are the things that I would need to do? What skills would I need to have to make myself indispensable? And so I started to focus on skills, right? Yes, obviously people are going on appointments, they're getting these contracts written, but then they're falling apart. And so I identified a couple skills that I believe agents should be focusing on right now to make sure that they can win, regardless if there's a recession, regardless of what the government's going to do. The government's going to continue to government. The weather's going to weather, right? Like all of the things that are outside of our control, we can't control any of that. But what can we control? Our mindset and our skills.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, talking about skills, on our coach calls, you know, I always am trying to get better about what we're doing. Obviously, I'm doing the agent tactics stuff here where I'm trying to help as many agents as I can, not only with my organization at Real, but outside of Real as well. And there's so much I still have to learn on how the process to run this, how to get this in front of more people. And I feel like if I'm not always trying to do a little bit better each one, I'm not going to get better. And it's the same thing in the real estate market, right? Especially here in Austin. Like knock on wood, this has been a phenomenal year for my team in Austin. But that doesn't mean it's been easy, right? All right. So what else you got here, Kristi? If the market drops 20%, what skills would make you indispensable?
Okay, so this one's a big one. But before I give you the first skill that I would focus on, I'm curious. You can throw it into the chat. Tell me right now, what's your biggest concern in your specific marketplace, right? So I know Venus is in Colorado, Brandy's in Savannah. So I know we've got a couple different states here. What is your biggest concern in your marketplace right now? Let's see. Getting people to price right. Oh, Tom. We have the highest inventory in 15 years. Buyers are not biting. Yeah. Brandy, you guys last week, you went to the like State of the Union, if you will. And I think inventory in Savannah is up like 70%. Is that right, Brandy? Something like that? Yeah. Okay. So she gave me the nod. Meanwhile, Brianna's got lack of inventory. Dang it, right? This is interesting. Lack of qualified buyers with cash. Okay, so that actually leads right into the very first skill that I believe that every agent should absolutely focus on right now, and that is pricing mastery. So whether it's lack of inventory or over inventory, right? Like in Brandy's case, pricing is an invisible skill that builds visible confidence, right? Um, have you ever listed a home at the seller's, can we just try this number? And then I have in my notes dot, dot, dot. And did you regret it? Like, did it ever work out and you didn't regret the just try it number, right? Because what happens, you guys? What happens when we emotionally price homes?
Oh, we get fired.
We get fired. But like, how's that listing for you? What does that feel like every single week? What does the seller end up doing? And you can unmute and say it, right? Like, what happens?
You dread that listing
Absolutely. Why, Becky? Why do you dread it?
because you don't want to listen to people tell you why is the house not moving and tell you all the reasons why it should be moving at that price. You don't really want to actively market it because you know it's not going to sell at that price.
Yeah, you dread the listing because they're like, Becky, why is my house not selling? Why are we not getting showings? Right? What are you doing to sell my home this week? Come on, Becky, right? Like, meanwhile, I've even been slick. I've even been slick sometimes and like put it in the agreement, right? Okay, we're going to try this price. And if we don't get an offer, right, we're going to do the price reduction. And then what happens when it's time to do the price reduction, even though you pre-negotiated it? What do they say?
No, I think we're gonna stay at this price. If we're gonna do that, you're gonna have to spend more money on marketing. Like,
You're not trying this and you're not trying that. As soon as you do blah, 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 that won't work, then maybe.
Yeah. So that's why pricing matters, right? It absolutely matters. So the first thing I would say is, you guys, we need to make sure that we have a belief shift or a mindset shift, right? They don't need hype, right? They need a clarity coach. And you are their clarity coach, right? Pricing isn't just about picking a number. It's about protecting your client's equity with clarity, and you are their clarity coach. So let's think about it this way. There are common myths about pricing that sellers believe, right? The biggest one that I see is that it doesn't matter if I overprice my home, because if a buyer really likes it, they'll write an offer, right? That's a myth. Another myth would be, I can overprice my home and it won't impact my overall net. But why is that not accurate? How does overpricing a home impact the seller's overall net?
Leads to days on market, leads to all kinds of things where people are questioning the value, what's wrong with it. And so they ended up getting less than what it should have sold for in the first place.
100%. And so Brandy is actually one of my coaching clients, and this is something that we've worked on with her team leader, Heather Murphy, the Heather Murphy Group in Savannah, Georgia. They have specific stats that we've been able to track, that if a home is priced right, meaning we don't need to do price reductions and it goes under contract quickly, that would be priced right. It takes 9 days to sell the home. And if it's not priced right, it takes 90 days and price reductions. So this belief that we can just, go for aspirational pricing and it's not going to impact my showings, it's not going to impact my, my overall net, right? No, that's just not accurate. And I don't remember who on a coaching call over the past couple of weeks, and I don't remember who, so I can't give them credit, and I apologize if they watch this later, say, hey, I'm
it
the
was
one that
me.
told you that.
I was gonna lie, it was me. Yeah.
It was not Jeremy. But one of my coaching clients said something really good. He said, you don't test out a restaurant that you can't afford. Think about that. This is something that we all do probably weekly. We know that, like, if I wanted to go out for a steak tonight, right? And I'm like, ooh, I want a really good juicy steak. Where am I going to go? I could go to the Capitol Grill downtown. It's one of my favorite steak houses. They have really, really good food. The steaks there, I haven't been recently, but from memory, I want to say you're going to start around $125, just for your steak, not for your sides. It's that kind of restaurant, right? And so could you imagine I've got a budget of $35, but I get in my car, I drive downtown, I get there, they bring out the nice menu and I open it up and the waiter comes and then I say, I really want this porterhouse. And I know that it's, $125, but would you take 35? Could you imagine? You would never even set foot in that restaurant. But sellers don't understand how buyers run pricing brackets and searches. And as a really good buyer's agent, would you take your client into a home that was priced at a price that they couldn't afford? They would never
Definitely try
see
not
your
to.
home.
I've
Yeah,
had
you would
several
definitely try
clients
not
tell
to.
me that they want to see that home, and I'm like, yeah, sure.
So that's why pricing matters so much. Our sellers need to understand that you don't try out a home that you can't afford. They're never going to see that home. It's not going to show up in their search. Their agent's not going to give them that home. They're definitely not going to take them into that home. And that's one of the risks. So if I were to focus on the micro skills of pricing, one of the first things that I would really, really hone in on is how to tell stories about the market in a way that they can relate. So just like the restaurant, right? Help them understand, right? When you go to Google and you're looking at restaurants, you're looking at those little price tags. You know what I mean? You don't go to restaurants that you can't afford. You don't try it out. It doesn't work like that. And so being able to take those stats, like on Brandy's team, where they've been able to say 9 days versus 90 days, which path do you want to go on? Right? We've done it I've done it in Orange County, California as well, where we've gone through and we've looked at the original net. And actually my clients in Bend, Oregon have done this too, where we've put together a graph where we look at the days on market, the original list price to the sales price, and then run our stats against the market. Right? So on the LAD group, the original list price to sales price ratio versus the rest of the marketplace, so that they can see how important pricing is, but being able to tell that story and having the visual aids to back it up, right? So here's the thing. If you focus on getting really good at not emotionally pricing homes, right, and helping the seller to understand what that looks like, you focus on that for the next 30 days, your listings will sell, right? Because that's a lot of money to have wrapped up in inventory. Jeremy, with all the listings that you have on the market and coming to market, that's probably what, $10,000 at least in marketing between
Right now.
photos, video,
Yeah.
right?
Right
Yeah.
now, yeah, absolutely.
So if those homes don't sell, what happens with that $10,000?
It comes out of my son's college fund. So
Oh, that's sad.
yeah. So he's got a vested interest in us selling those homes.
Absolutely, right? And so that's why pricing matters. We don't want to buy listings, but it'll also be less drama for you. We won't avoid those phone calls or want to avoid those phone calls of the seller saying, "What are you doing to sell my house?" So that's, I don't know, what are your guys' thoughts on pricing? What's your go-to example or phrase that you use when someone wants to price their home too high?
I don't have a go-to example, but I have a question.
Mhm.
An example. Okay, so I recently had somebody reach out to me about selling their house. They've previously listed the house. It didn't sell. Um, I looked at it and I actually was able to get in the house. I went to the house. The house has been renovated. It's beautiful. It needs staged. There's nothing that evokes emotion about it. I do think it was priced a little high. It's not completely off the reservation, but it's not. Once you dug deeper, they weren't getting the exposure. Had a call with them when they were both available. I explained it. I showed them the market, and they were like, we have $10,000. Like, what should we do with this $10,000 to spend on our house that's going to then make it sell? In their mind, they have to do something. They don't understand that I'm like, your house really needs staging, and here's the comps, and kind of going through that. But for somebody who has already been through a failed transaction, they have a little bit different mindset. And and I actually happened to pull up a house and I said, look at this house, because they're like, our house just doesn't have curb appeal. And I was like, that's not true at all. And I pulled up a house that is ugly on the outside, but the inside, it's perfect. And I said, I guarantee you this house is going to sell this weekend. It's going to be under contract. It was. I sent it to them and I was like, hey, just FYI, this house is under contract. But like, how do you then, it's like you've provided the data, You've explained all of this to them and explain it. But then how do you get them to take action? Like there's nothing else that I can give them.
So they don't want to take action on the staging,
Well,
or they
and
don't want to take action on getting their home relisted.
take action on getting the home relisted because they're still stuck in the okay, well, we must have to do something to our house. We're not necessarily convinced, even when I've shown them, hey, look at this house, this house, this house. These are the things that make a buyer want to submit an offer on a house and come see the house and all that. But they're still stuck in this, like they're trying to evaluate from different realtors who's going to tell them something to do that they think is going to make the difference. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think so, Becky. And actually, you're spot on for what I would do is I would give them that evidence. And then if you have any other historical data that creates urgency. So that's actually my second skill. So I think this is a good trend. It's not the second skill, it's a skill. It's the market intelligence, right? So you gave them a prime example. You said this home's going to go under contract because of the appeal to a buyer, right? The marketing was positioned. So it's, you've given them what you need to do is get the home staged, rephotographed, repositioned, and back on the market as soon as possible because of a sense of urgency. Becky, remind me what market you're in.
I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay, so right now it's really important because I'm guessing that when it gets really hot and sticky, do sales slow down a little bit, or do you guys have really nice seasonality all year?
Um, it definitely slows down probably like June and July a little bit, not significantly, but it does slow down. And then we have another little bump sort of August, September, October.
So realigning them with their timeline, right? So assuming that they want to get the home sold and they want to move, what would we be capturing right now? So in the Phoenix marketplace, I can tell you the longer someone's sitting right now, that's no bueno for them because once we get into the heat, our winter visitors go away. Right. So we already don't have the Canadian buyers right now, and our winter visitors go away. So even though we sell homes all year, you really want to get the home on the market in the early spring and closed before we start hitting 110, 115. But more importantly, I have market data. And so this would be skill two to create urgency. And I'm actually just I pulled this up to be able to share with you guys. So this is a document that a lot of my coaching clients are familiar with because I talk about market intelligence and being able to speak about the market. So in Becky's case, to create urgency, if I was meeting with a seller in my marketplace right now, I would want to show them the historical data from the past 3 years. So there are 4 numbers that I track every single week. And my husband and I have been tracking these numbers for well over a decade, but it wasn't until my real estate coach, Eileen Rivera, she was like, Kristi, why are you guys just tracking this? We were tracking it in Slack. So like we would send out a Slack message to the entire team of the total number of active homes, the total number of pending homes, and the total number of closed homes in the past 30 days. Then you take closed divided by active, and that gives you your month supply of inventory. She said, you should really throw this into a spreadsheet so that you can use it on a listing appointment. So you don't just use it for market intelligence, but you can use it on a listing appointment. So in I think it was 2021 or 2020. Oh, actually, there you go. Yeah. So in January of 2021, we actually started throwing it into a Google spreadsheet. And then we created these graphs, which was like a right click. You don't need to know anything special to do this. But now we can actually show with our own historical data why, if I was thinking about selling my home, I would be getting it on the market right now. So we can see our first number is the total number of active homes. You will also see that at the height of the market, we had less than 4,000 active homes on the marketplace. We are now sitting at like 26,000. Yeah. So as of April 28th, 26,592. So inventory, has gone up. And if you look at 2024, other than in like November and December when people just pulled their homes off the market for, the holidays, inventory never went down in 2024, and it hasn't gone down this year. So even though our pendings and our close have continued to go up in the spring, our inventory has not gone down. So it's going to be competitive. It's going to take some time. Our median days is well over 70. So that's one of the first stories that I'll be able to tell, even though I'm not tracking days on market on here. But you'll also see that come the summer months for the past 3 years, what has happened to pendings and closed? They've gone down. So I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what tariffs and recession and all of these things are going to do. But what I can tell you is that 3 years in a row, the third and fourth quarter have been the coolest months to be a seller, meaning we don't have the buyer demand that we've had. And the outlier this year is that inventory never went down. So you can kind of see that inventory went down in the spring, but 2024, it never went down. And in 2025, it hasn't gone down. So while the pendings are up and the closings are up, I want to get my listing on the market to get maximum exposure. So being able to track some basic numbers and being able to have that market intelligence can also create urgency. Don't use words like I think, I feel. Here's what I know, right? That's what they need to hear. They need to hear the confidence in what you know. Marianne in Savannah on Brandy's team, one of the things that she always has is 3 fun facts. What are 3 fun facts that you have about the marketplace for if you're a buyer, or 3 fun facts that you have if you're a seller? What do they need to know? And don't go off of emotions or feelings, go off of the data. And then I just tell them, hey, I don't write the news, I just deliver it. And this is exactly what you need to know as a seller right now. If you want to capture the buyers that are interested, we have to get your home on the marketplace, because I can show you historical data for 3 years and also the trends. Like I'm also looking at those trends weekly. Hopefully that helps, Becky.
What what's interesting is, I'm thinking about, we have a new buyer's agent who's our listing agent on our team, and one of the things she sometimes runs into is she doesn't ask enough questions to build rapport. She just goes into, okay, we're going to sell your house. And this is something we've had to work on. And we were literally on a call yesterday, and I had to like intervene and just start asking questions again, even though this was a client who was already going to work with us. I had to go back and start asking questions again to rebuild the rapport. So one thing I find, and we just went to a $1.8 million listing appointment. All right. And this client, I did not, they're very particular. They're very particular what they wanted. They just bought the house last year, so they're very particular on price. So when it came to pricing the home, I said, okay, here's all the data information. Here's everything that's available at our fingertips. Here's pricing from here to here. Here's what's happening in the market. Here's your competition. Here's what we've seen. Obviously, you follow us because of the YouTube channel. Based on all of this, my idea of pricing is going to be different than yours. So why don't you tell me what your idea on price is, and I'll tell you mine. And they're like, okay, well, we think we need to price it at 1.75, which is what we bought it for. So we're going to lose $100,000. And I'm like, thank you. I was hoping you were not going to say we need to price it at 1.85, because I was going to have to then tell you that people are going to look to see you just bought it for 175 and they're going to offer you 175. Do you agree? Yes, that's exactly why. So I think sometimes we just don't ask enough. Like when somebody asks us a question, oh, that's a really, really good question. And then pivot to where you want to go and ask them a question that's going to pivot to the direction you want to go. And sometimes, and then I find like with the agent on my team, sometimes she doesn't run the conversation. And it's not about running the conversation in telling people what they need to hear, but running it into a way that you're formulating the conversation into where you want it to go.
Yes.
Right. And that's all through questions.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Jeremy. We don't ask enough questions. We're all super hyped, right? Like I know a lot of the agents on this call, we know what happens in a recession, right? Verbatim, I bet you guys are all going to say the same thing. What happens to home values during a recession? Show me with a thumbs up. Do they go up or do they go down? You guys have ran that play, right? Home values typically go up during a recession. What typically also happens to rates? They go down, right? We have that historical data a lot. The only time it didn't happen that way was 2008, right? That was a little bit different, but those were different scenarios. So all of you in your mind already know, like when someone says, oh, I think we're going to wait because the market's going to go down. you probably have like 4 or 5 ways that you're going to handle that objection. And so then you start to tell the buyer or the seller what they should hear. Instead, follow what Jeremy is doing and you ask questions that are going to guide them to the thought process that you want them to arrive at, right?
Yeah.
So
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 instead, like,
having
so
questions prepared.
prime example, instead of telling them the market's going to go down, you go, okay, well, yeah, I understand that. So based on what you've seen, what are the reasons you think that the market's going to go down? Well, this and this. Okay, awesome. Well, what do you think would happen if, maybe the market doesn't go down and you're looking at it from a year from now? Would that be painful? Right. So let me ask you, are you in a position to buy a home? Like, let's say we found this price point with this. Is that comfortable for you? Okay. Do you think a year from now that those prices really are going to be lower? But do you think you're going to care if they're lower because you're going to stay in the house longer? What are your thoughts on that? And then they'll be like, oh, well, I guess we could, buy a house now. And yeah, who cares what prices are next year? Because we're going to be in it for 10 years. Literally, they will say exactly what I would have told them just by asking, tell me a little more.
But what happens in their belief, right? Like, do people like to be
Yeah.
told? How many of you guys like to be told what to do?
I have a coach call every Wednesday at 12:30, so I can't respond.
But most people don't like to be told what to do, right? And that's where when you ask a good series of questions, they arrive at the same thought process as you, but they think it was their idea, so they're more invested. And if you've ever been a parent, right? if you have children or if you're in a relationship, we all know this. If you can get them to think it's their idea, they're more bought into it, right? And you have more influence over them in the decision-making process. So yeah, it's a really good point, Jeremy. I didn't list that as a skill in terms of like scripting and dialoguing or in questions, but if I were to go back and add another skill, it would 100% be the art of asking really good questions
I,
because it is a skill
we,
that's needed.
I think what I need to do on here with Agent Tactics is create a time where we just do it agent conversations and literally just
Ooh.
do role play on some of these things. Cause even like my team members, sometimes I'm like, why did you just say that? And it's because I didn't have the conversation with them about how that conversation looks and practice enough. So it came off naturally, right? It looks like a script. So maybe that's what we need to do in here, coach.
Yeah, actually, I think that's a great idea. And a lot of people would find that useful because sometimes just hearing someone how, like even Becky, how she kind of took you through what the home needed and what she did, I bet someone on this call was like, oh, that was a good idea. I never thought about doing it that way, right? Just being able to hear
Yeah.
someone else do it for sure. So, well, I definitely want to talk about negotiation because I think this actually
Yeah.
goes really well into, Jeremy, into what you're saying about asking really good questions. So if we think about the rate of deals falling out, one thing that I started to think about is like, deals don't actually die from bad inspections and bad appraisals. Deals die from unskilled conversations, which goes back to questioning, right? Influence, rapport. How many of you guys have had a deal die maybe in the past year that if you really thought about it, could have been saved had it had a better conversation?
I'm gonna have to tell Brandy to come on for this conversation. A property we terminated with just closed with another agent, and a lot of it had to do with the conversations of how we phrased everything. They would have made more money closing with us on that deal and saved more time. But
Interesting, right?
mhm,
So, and that could also mean expectations, right? I know that a lot of you guys are doing buyer consultations and setting expectations up front, right? Going into how you frame how we're going to ask for repairs. How many of you guys have a specific way that you prep your buyers for an inspection so that they don't ask for the 170-page list of things that are on the inspection report, right? How do you guys do that? Anyone want to share? How do you prep and set expectations for a buyer going into inspections?
Hey, we're going to get this house inspected, and typically it's going to be 38 to 60 pages. This house is a 1978 house, and it's going to be inspected based on 2025 standards. What my advice to you is that we negotiate based on safety, livability, and perhaps leaking water issues, if there are any of those. The rest, anything else that we need to adjust, like let's just say we saw a hole in the wall, we're going to say we want that hole in the wall fixed, but we're going to negotiate from good faith. And when we do that, we're going to have a better situation. You just need to know this is not a checklist of repairs, because we already know that there's no GFCI in the kitchen. And that's a $20 fix, that you can do yourself or what. Anyways, that's kind of how I do it.
I like that. So Tom, you said safety, livability. What was the third bucket?
Like water, rising water.
Okay,
If there's,
water.
yeah, water damage.
Which, yeah, we don't have a ton of water here in Arizona, so that's not a way
Well, it
that
could
I've
be
ever
from
phrased
pipes, or
it,
it
but
could
I
be,
liked it.
yeah.
Yeah. If there's too many scorpions, too many, what are those bugs in the wall?
Termites.
Termites. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna pull on Brandy. Brandy, how do you do it? Unmute yourself. How do you prep a buyer? Because I know you get bossy with your buyers. How do you prep your buyers going into asking for repairs?
I prep my buyers when we're at the house putting in the contract of things that I visually see that I know is going to come up. And then if it's nothing major, I try to like scale that expectation down and then tell them like, obviously we see the wood rot around this door frame. You're not VA. It's not a major issue. It's $150 from a contractor. Let's wait, get the report, and then look at our roof. Our roof is the most important thing here because our deductible and all of our insurance rates go up based on the age of the roof. Now, if it's like 15 years or more, their insurance rate's higher. So I'm more telling them, let's pay attention to those cost expense of the HVAC, the roof. A hot water heater is $1,000. We're not going to stress over that. And let's just worry about the components that are going to be expenses that they don't have the money to pay for because they're cashed out trying to come up with their down payment.
Yeah, so you're also leading them into basically things we are going to care about and absolutely have to have fixed, i.e. maybe livability, right? Or safety. Things that, might be nice, but depending on how the inspection comes back, we may or may not ask for. And then things that we're not going to ask for. It's basically what you guys, both of you said it in a different way, but you're already helping your buyers sort and set expectations. We're definitely going to ask for things like this. We may or may not. And these things we're not going to ask for, right? Because
I do it that way. And then I'll have it quoted and then just tell them like, look, this is $700. Like we got 10 grand in closing costs from them. We're not going to nitpick them. And it depends on that deal. Like right now, all of our listings are overpriced. And so I'm getting them under ask with closing costs. So we're not going to beat them up on a $700 worth of small electrical items from a 1980 house. We knew this going in.
yeah, I love that. Are you keeping track? I love this for the market storytelling. Are you keeping track of like how many roofs have you gotten replaced? How much under ask are you getting right now on average?
Yeah, I'm keeping track of like how much closing costs I'm getting paid for my buyers for the most part. And for the, like we just did our market. And so I think it was like 7 or 10%. And I'm just putting in CMAs when I put my offer in to just show them. And then when we can't negotiate it correctly, I just wait for the appraisal. And then I'm like, told you. Because we already know they're overpriced.
I love that. So that's part of her negotiation, right? So a micro skill as she's getting buyers to write offers that are going to get accepted and appraise, or getting her buyers to ask for the, appropriate amount of repairs based on concessions. She's also keeping track so she can, go into a buyer consultation and say, on average, I'm getting my clients between 7 and 10% off the list price. So if you're going in with another agent that's like, yeah, I think it's pretty much a buyer's market, and then you're going against Brandy and she's giving you her stats, which agent are you going to have more confidence with? That's the ability to understand your negotiating power and be able to story tell it so that they go with you, right? Part of, a big part of the negotiation is also managing the emotions. How many of you guys realized when you got your real estate license that you'd be a marriage counselor, a life coach, a therapist, all of those things? Like, have you had to witness some emotions in the past week by your buyers or sellers, right? We hold emotions together so that deals can live. Think about it that way. You don't just negotiate terms. You hold everyone's emotions together so that the deals can live. That's part of the negotiation strategy, right? Emotional regulation. What are some of the things that you guys do to help manage and regulate emotions with your clients so that they don't overreact and do something that's not in their best interest?
I like to use real life examples, like on listings. So my big story was, hey, these 4 children who were in their 60s, but they had gotten it through inherited it. I said, here's this lot, and there's going to be a few people that will look at it, and we might get 1.4 million for it. And if be 1 or 2 people that do that, and then anybody else is not going to do that, it's not going to work out that way. So if that happens, we're probably going to get an offer pretty quickly. So we listed it for 1.6 million. We got an offer for 1.4 million, and they replied, well, that happened too soon. Let's just wait. And so they were so happy when we closed at $925,000. So trust me when I say I know how we should price it. Here's a range. What's your choice? So I mean, I just used the real life because each of them lost $100,000 basically.
Yeah, case studies, right? Like those
Yeah.
are perfect case studies of, gosh, how many of you guys, he brings up such a good point. How many of you guys have had a seller that passed on the first offer because it just wasn't perfect? And then they ended up staying on the market way longer. And in many cases, didn't get what the first offer was, like in the example that he shared. I would keep track of every single time that's happened. And if you can even put photos with it and things like that, right? And then also share the stories of when they did price the home right and it did sell right away where a neighbor maybe didn't, right? Like the competition stayed on the market a little bit longer. Okay, I want to make sure we get to this skill because I think it's really important and it ties really well into agent tactics. I believe another skill that if I wanted to make myself indispensable regardless of market conditions, I would focus on video communication. Now, let me preface this because I probably will offend some people. I don't need you to get on a countertop and twerk and do something like crazy. I don't even need you, although I think it's hilarious. I don't need you to play hide and seek in a house, okay? I don't need you to make a small movie in a house, although Jeremy does great videos. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about being a TikTok or a YouTube or an Instagram sensation. I'm talking about video communication, right? If your clients don't see you, they're probably not going to choose you. If you're not using video to communicate concepts with your clients, you could be potentially not building the level of trust and rapport that's capable. So outside of marketing, how are you guys using videos to communicate with your clients? Anybody have an example? Go for it. Either Brandy or Brianna. Brianna, you go first.
Sure. So in the Yukon, Canada, I've mentioned before, we're like a million steps behind everybody else. So with the Tom Ferry Group and Agent Tactics, we try to be that team one step ahead. And so what we've done is become the knowledge mayor of our city. So we do Tip Tuesday with Wisdom Wednesday videos. And so Tip Tuesday is all about like home maintenance, and then Wisdom Wednesday is more like terms and negotiations and like things about that. And it actually is amazing. Like it was a lot of work for us because like to batch content is like impossible up here, but we did it. And we have been doing this consistently now probably for 4 months, and it is amazing how the 30-second reels, how many people say, oh my God, I watched your video and went and changed out what we have as sump pumps for water in the spring. And I went and got one, and I went and checked on it, and oh my God, I found out there was a problem. And like, so we're making an impact like that because nobody up here does that. So instead of you know, the typical marketing of properties. We're trying to share our knowledge with everybody else.
which could save them thousands and thousands of dollars in the example of some pump and, you know, water and things like that. I love that. So you guys, you batched created, you're going in as being, you know, helping them prepare, helping them avoid disaster, and also probably something to think about in case they are thinking about buying or selling.
Yeah. Yeah.
So besides Instagram or besides social media, are you guys utilizing those videos in lead follow-up? Are you utilizing them in your, like when you get someone under contract?
So the other way we utilize the videos is through our e-newsletter that we send out every month. The big thing that we are going to do is, again, I know this is embarrassing, but is like doing bomb videos. So that instead of repeating the same phone call or the same email over and over, to make it more personalized, we're going to do like individual videos of, all right, congratulations, you're under contract. Now what, right? Okay, first step, financing as a buyer or as a seller, like, and doing that because a lot of stuff just gets lost or they get totally like, oh my God, when they get an email this long, right? So yeah.
I love that. Those transactional step videos are very, very helpful. So,
Yeah.
and then you guys are going to utilize BombBomb. I love it. Brandy, and oh wait, hold on. Rebecca had a question. What are you guys doing on Wednesdays?
We call it Wisdom Wednesday. So it's more about like buyer and seller knowledge about the contract, about processes, marketing, stuff like that, like market update.
I like it. Okay. Brandy, you said you're also utilizing videos.
I do mine one-on-one more so, because here we're small town, even though we're not, but we are. So I see these people after closing, and I realized a few years back that they don't know who I am. And so, I mean, I'll be in the boat all day, you know, and go into Publix and I see everybody on God's green earth. Well, they don't realize because I don't look like this. I'm exhausted and I've been burnt. So I send videos to my clients of me in all states of distress for the most part. So they kind of get to know me and it makes me more relatable. So if I'm, you know, at their home inspection and they weren't there, I'll send them a video follow up showing them, you know, here's what I found. Or when we're, you know, hitting our due diligence, I'll shoot them just straight from wherever I'm at and whatever I look like, hey, our due diligence is up to date. Are we moving forward? Where are we at? And then especially, you know, at the walkthroughs and things like that, because a lot of my clients aren't here because they're military. And so I just really keep up with them, even the ones that are local, with just a 30-second from my phone, like, hey, here we are today. It's been a week. We haven't heard from the builder. Your home's still being built. You know, just more blunt and more real. That way, when they see me in real life, they're not taken aback. Like, because you really don't see them on the buy side, but just like a few steps. And so if I'm not keeping up with them visually, they don't see me and feel like I'm approachable sometimes, I guess, after closing. They'll see you and then you're all like,
I love that. So no filter needed. She's showing up raw and real. My videographer would tell me, Kristi, it's just your face. Because I'd be like, oh, I don't want to shoot a video today. My hair's not right or something like that. He's like, it's just your face. And so I love that you're doing it in all states of and all different. Brandy, had the same thing happen to me one Christmas. Meryl and I decided we were gonna hand deliver gifts to all of our, you know, closed clients, homes under management, if you will. And this person in particular had done, let's see, they bought the home, sold the home, bought another home, sold another home. So it was like their fourth or fifth, we'd done 5 transactions. They had been in my client database a really long time. And I'm, you know, I pop by literally, you know, I'm giving them the gift and we're chatting and all of a sudden he goes, oh, he finally remembered me after 3 minutes of a conversation. And from that moment on, Meryl and I changed one of our strategies too. In all of our birthday cards and all of our home anniversary cards, we wouldn't put a business card with our picture. We did silly, like we put like funny birthday hats on and things like that. But for the same reason that you just said, we realized that our clients actually forgot what we looked like, even though they had done all these transactions with us, right? Like I could spot them. And to your point, I could spot them at Publix, but they didn't know who I was. And so we started putting our photos, silly photos, in all of our direct mail. And then, of course, they obviously were not watching our videos, but that's a whole nother story. So we probably needed to make better videos. But I love that you are doing just those short, quick videos. I also remember when you guys had all of that crazy flooding last year, you guys actually went out and videoed each of your clients' properties and sent them a video, just so every home that they had under contract, when there was weather issues, they would go out to the home and do a video for their clients. And I thought that was just above and beyond customer service. And I know you guys did it on all the vacant listings too. You guys did some
It
other
was
stuff
just
like that.
helpful because even if they weren't flooded, then they can see like with a storm of that nature, how dry their yard was. And it just took that ease, it took that stress away for them. And so that was actually really great. I ended up with so many referrals from my clients from that. And so most of my clients send me clients, and that's where most of my business comes from, because you become more relatable to them when you're, I guess, more real and not just like the perfect person.
I am perfect. What are you talking about?
I mean,
No, I love that. Okay, so I mean, that's exactly what I was talking about. 90-second market updates, real, raw, on your phone videos, either utilizing BombBomb. One of the things that I use a lot, and I've coached a lot of you guys on this, is I use a product called Loom. Loom. And every single time I'm doing a CMA, every time I write an offer, every time I send over a listing agreement, so anytime I'm sending contract paperwork, I always make a desktop video where I'm walking them through everything. If I have to send over an offer to a seller, if I'm getting that repair request or, anything, I'm going to make a quick video that my client can watch and walk through before we jump on the call. That's also one of the ways that we help manage emotions. And it's also cover myself, right? Because I know that I've told them this. I have proof that I've told them this, right? And this one in particular, when the buyer forgets what you did and you didn't ask for, right? And so then you get to the final walkthrough and they're saying, well, didn't we ask for X, Y, and Z? No, remember we decided not to ask for that. Oh, really? Because I could have swore we asked for that. I've got videos like, well, let's go back and watch the video and make sure that, I explained to you in the video, this is exactly what we're asking for and we're not asking for, and you watched it and signed it, right? Yeah. So, okay, Jeremy, I've
Yeah.
got another 5 minutes. How do you want to
Yeah.
take this?
I love the Q&A that we've had here. Rebecca, I love you, Rebecca. You're so great. What are the last minute questions that we have? I mean, let's try this. What's the one last tip? Obviously, we've covered some good tips here. What's the one last tip? I'm trying to get more business. I'm trying to close more business. What do I got to do? Is it just make more phone calls?
At the end of the day, it is focusing on things that do move the needle. So yes, I would figure out what your daily non-negotiables are. So Brandy was able to articulate that she gets a lot of referrals from her clients. So part of her daily non-negotiables, I'm assuming, would be I make, 3 personalized videos a day. Right. I send out personalized note cards every day. So a lot of people love the ninja selling philosophy and they write handwritten note cards every day. Part of our non-negotiables is we do equity reviews every single week. I don't do them daily, but some of my clients do it daily. So finding the evidence of what has worked for you in the past and then making sure that that's part of your non-negotiables. And one of the fastest ways to set an appointment is to just pick up the phone. Right? Like if you trace back your business. So I hate to say, should I just be making my calls? Yes. Why do we avoid the things that we know are going to get us what we want, right? We get in our head. We try to do everything else. We prepare to make calls. We practice to make calls. We organize to make calls. We study to make calls, and then we fail to just pick up the phone and make the call.
Yeah. And then you on Wednesdays at 12:30 say, Jeremy, how many calls did you make? And I'm like, I create videos, Kristi. What are you talking about? They're supposed to call me, right? How many calls to action did you make? Oh, awesome. Well, hey, look, I'm going to let you get out of here for your appointment. Obviously, Kristi has been nice enough to join us and carve her schedule around Agent Tactics. So if you want Kristi back, drop a 1 in the comment section because she cleared 10 o'clock on her, or 10 o'clock our time on her schedule for Agent Tactics. So do me a favor. If there is another topic that you want to cover, maybe it's more stuff on actual physically how to do some AI tools and tips, whatever it is, drop a DM in there or drop a comment because I want to make sure that we cover those. And I do want to bring Kristi back. Obviously, she's my personal coach. And on top of that, she's now real. So there's that, which is fantastic. I mean, I don't know if we've done enough videos on the fact that you're a real person, but
It's fun.
yeah. So SOPs. Let's see, what do we got in the mastermind for YouTube, or did I miss? Oh, that was a different one. Sorry. SOPs and organizing are topics for Kristi. Yeah. Kristi's SOPs. That's
Definitely can do that.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie. Like, I'm not an SOP person, and Kristi's SOPs have definitely helped me. Rebecca, I love Kristi more. So, okay.
Yeah,
My Kristi.
definitely give us some topics. We'll plan out a couple months in advance to get you guys, because Jeremy's the master of video. That's his domain. He's all things video, and I just support him in making sure that those leads get into the systems that they need to, those processes are in place, the skills are transferred, and watching basically helping him kind of close the gaps and the holes in his business so that all of the hard work that he does, yields to more money in his pocket at the end of the day, more families served, more agents served. So I appreciate you guys, and I look forward to coming back.
Awesome. We'll see y'all next week. Appreciate you.
Thank you.